Hey everyone, I'm Katie Griffith with Bright Solutions. We are a technology consulting firm exclusively serving the senior living industry, helping providers optimize the way they use technology. And we're so excited to be doing this interview series where we're illustrating how AI is being utilized within our industry. And I'm so thrilled and excited to have Peter Kress with us today. He is the Senior Vice President and Chief Innovation Officer at Axe Retirement. So thank you so much, Peter, for being with us today.
My pleasure. Really looking forward to the conversation.
I am so thrilled because you are truly a major innovator in our industry. And so I'm so excited to share your perspective with folks in our field and to be able to learn from you and hear the things that you're doing at Axe Retirement as it relates to AI. So with that, first off, how are you going about pursuing AI innovations for Axe Retirement?
AI is a big term, but
Mhm.
of course, that big term nowadays, we are thinking very much about a set of technologies that has been emerging over the last couple of years, much more accessible to consumers, much more accessible to the workforce than sort of the data science approach of the last 10 years. And we're believing it's a significant technology. We're believing it's a technology that can have real impact on our ability to deliver person centered services, resident centered, workforce centered, team member centered, in other words, impacts in our space. And we'll talk a little bit during our conversation about why we're so optimistic. So at Axe, we're very much building an innovation effort that is AI first. And by calling it AI first, we don't mean that AI is the only thing there is. But what we do mean is that we're believing that what's happening with generative AI is an enabler and accelerator of a wide range of change and opportunity. So Axe's innovation effort is a structured effort. I am a chief innovation officer. We call our projects Innovation Lab. Those projects are focused on fast application and are focused on accelerating our ability to change in the direction of our strategic initiatives. And at the heart of that Innovation Lab effort is a commitment to AI literacy. And the reason we're so committed to AI literacy is we think it's exactly the ability to empower our workforce with the tools of generative AI across a wide range of activities that a workforce pursues that is likely to be able to support our ability to innovate fast. So, for example, we believe that AI at its heart, generative AI at heart, is a conversation technology. And again, I'll talk more about that later. But a conversation technology means a technology that is accessible to every member of our workforce. So, and it means it's accessible to every activity that our workforce is engaged in. And so, because of that, every member of our workforce commitment and our AI literacy commitment to every member of the workforce, we've been putting together a program that we're calling Innovation Fellows. And we are looking to find a way to effectively train from positions across our organizations, frontline positions, management positions, operational, healthcare, all these positions, to identify candidates that we can train to be champions and leaders and what I'll call citizen innovators, and to engage them with the tools and capabilities to leverage AI and other ways of thinking about change and innovation in our organization, and then deploy them in their positions, not in new roles, but in their positions to help us identify opportunities, test pilots and prototypes, and in general, champion and accelerate change across our organization. We're trying to do this at some scale. We're a large organization. We have 8,000 employees. We're looking to perhaps train as many as 150 of those employees in this innovation fellow role over the next couple of years.
That's amazing. I mean, everything you're doing around this innovation lab, you're just hitting all the things that I am passionate about, which is involving all levels of the organization, talking to frontline and all the different levels about how is this going to support you in your work and providing better care and having more meaningful interactions with residents and with each other, and really also just from a change management perspective, involving these individuals from the start and creating something together. And then you're just going to have these champions that are out there, to pursue these goals. But that's really exciting.
Early days, the AI revolution is as we know it today, and we've been talking about AI for many decades, but the AI revolution as we know it today is really we're 2 to 3 years in to the public space engagement with the AI revolution. And in that space, we're all learning and we're all finding early access. But one of the reasons that I consider this innovation lab, this engagement of all employees around AI literacy so important is because while it could be abused, generative AI is a uniquely human technology. It's about language. At the very heart of it, generative AI is about the ability of understanding intent as it's expressed in language. Now, yes, we actually are getting vision capabilities, other kinds of engagement modalities are being supported, live voice, texting, a variety of things. But all of this is rooted uniquely in the human. And that impact requires us to take a different approach to leveraging this kind of technology. This is not a data science activity. It's not a technical activity. It's not a programming activity. It's uniquely about understanding how do we take human intent, whether that's a customer intent or a resident intent or a team member intent or a partner intent or a prospect intent. How do we take and be responsive to that in a highly personalized way?
So, do you want to talk about some of the specific use cases with AI, or do you want to go down where you see AI evolving from conversational to action based?
Okay, so great. I think that you set me up well there. There's lots of way to talk about AI and how you apply it, and there's lots of use cases, extensive use cases. One of the characteristics of AI is that it's general. The knowledge base that our foundation models have is broad across all domains of human knowledge and so forth, and therefore it has the opportunity to apply to a wide range of, and here's the key word, a wide range of conversations. Now let's think about it. Most senior living organizations, at the heart of our business is the relationship we're building with our customers and the way we're delivering care and services, support, residential hospitality, all to our residents. And most of that happens person to person. Most of that happens through conversations. I mean, yes, we're caring, but much of the mode of our caring is a conversation. Now, we know in the past that our systems have been in the back office. After we have all those conversations, we might go back and do a little bit of documentation. And of course, we lose 80, 90% of the content of that conversation as we take it back to that back office system, answer a few questions or enter a form or report some activity. And yet, it's those conversations that we're having that are at the heart of the service we're able to deliver, the relationships we're able to build, the personalization of our connection for that resident. It's where our impact is. So let's think about that. If conversation is at the very heart of our mission, it's at the very heart of our operational strategy. How can we start leveraging technology as a facilitator and enabler and accelerator and reporter and documenter and everything of that conversation? I think of this as a design pattern that all of us can use across many different domain areas for the use of generative AI. The design pattern is conversation to document to data to action. Each one of those steps is relevant. I can begin a conversation directly between me and the AI and say to it, based on this information that we're discussing, can you provide me a proposal? or a document or an action plan, and it will produce that back, a conversation to document. Well, it's interesting when I'm the one stating that, but what happens when our customer, we're capturing a conversation with a customer, and then we're saying to the AI, now I'd like you to prepare a summary of who this person is based on the conversations that you have. That summary looks like a document, right? And
Mhm.
that document becomes quite powerful in enabling me and my colleagues to be able to deliver more personalized, responsive care for that resident.
The clinical listening and I feel like AI is so good at listening and then categorizing, and that's probably a much more simplistic use case than where you're headed. But if we can have those conversations just captured and then the documentation done instead of the care staff sometimes they're waiting until the end of the day to go and try to remember everything and put it all in because they just got tied up with caring for residents and didn't get the chance to go document all along the way throughout the day.
Yeah, clinical listening is one great use case of this, right? But again, I want to be intensely person centered rather than process centered. So we're not just caring about clinical listening. We're talking about listening to our resident no matter what the array of relationship we have. We're talking about listening to our prospects. So the sales process needs to be a listening process. We're talking about listening during onboarding process so that we can personalize someone's experience as they move into our campus. We're talking about listening for preferences, story, we often call it. And of course, we're talking about listening in clinical settings. We're talking about listening to complaints. The age of forms needs to go away. We now need to have customer support conversations, right? Customer feedback conversations, not fill out forms. So that listening model. But but we'd be underestimating the impact of this is all if all we're saying is, oh, it's like recording a conversation, because actually what we're saying is we're able to activate that conversation. We're able to activate it as a document. We already said that, but we're also able to activate it as a set of data that can update our systems. And if we can update it as data, then we can update it as action set. That's the newest terminology we're seeing out in the AI world is the evolution of the agentic. It's the ability for these language models to begin executing for us autonomously sometimes or assistively. And when you get to executing for us, that conversation turns into action. And it could be as primitive, right? As, oh, my apartment is too hot. That's the conversation. Execute a change of the temperature on the thermostat or execute a work order to check the heating, could be actions that occurring. And again, it's a mistake if we think about these as individual small scale use cases. It's that there's thousands of ways in which conversation can be activated against our environment.
Using the technology in one way can support a myriad of use cases.
I think that's one of its powers, right? This is
Mhm.
not, oh, I have this need. Let's go buy a system that fulfills this need. It's instead, it's, I now have this capacity. How do I leverage this capacity across a wide range of actions that I'm able to take?
Incredible.
And again, a lot of possibilities. So let me give you three quick examples of a conversation use case. One is a personal example. I tend to be a verbal person. We're having a conversation here. I'm thinking about what I'm saying as I say it, sometimes only after. You know, that's not a good thing. So increasingly, I'm taking out my Microsoft Word, I'm turning on the microphone, and I'm just talking to Microsoft Word. And I'm free flow talking. I'm not trying to give a speech that anybody could understand. I'm just free flow brainstorming out into it. And at the end of that, it's recorded that. And at the end of that, I'm able to say, okay, based on what we did, I'm using Copilot in Word to do this. Based on this, what are the action items that here? Or what is a project plan that could emerge from here? Or how could I turn this into an effective communication of strategy? Or how could I just turn this into an informational document? In fact, can I turn this into a podcast? And yes, there's a tool out there that could automatically turn that transcript into an interesting, engaging podcast. So for my personal productivity and my personal thinking, I'm able to leverage the fact that I tend to be a conversational thinker. I think as I speak, and I'm able to use that as a way to be way more productive in preparing reports or presentations or plans and so forth. It's a highly individual thing, and that doesn't apply to everyone.
Yeah, I love it. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm famous for just word vomiting into Chat GPT, and I just tell it all about a whole situation. And then, yeah, it helps me to kind of formulate my thoughts.
But, so now let's be more structured. You talked about the clinical conversation. Um, so we're leveraging a co-pilot style program to be an e-scribe as part of our well-being encounters with residents. We're experimenting with this in the context of nurse practitioner encounters, in terms of fitness assessments, in terms of nutritional assessments. We're actually even experimenting with it in some of our chaplains assessment conversations with our residents. And so again, the technology listens to the conversation. And then based on predefined templates that we can change at will, based on predefined templates, it's producing a summary document that can serve as a visit summary for our residents. It can serve for us as a nurse's note, if a nurse practitioner note, or we can even use that conversation that we had and turn it into a referral document to send off, for example, to another practitioner. All of those off the same conversation. It actually, for some of our nurse practitioners, they're claiming that it's removing 2 hours of documentation work a day from them.
Mm-hmm.
And clinicians who are doing that level of documentation, where are they doing it? They're doing it at home after
Mm-hmm.
their busy day. So all of a sudden, we're significantly enhancing work-life balance for that sort of clinical listening. And then this quarter in our innovation lab, we're getting ready to take a similar approach to how we think about sales conversations. And we're experimenting both with the recording of the sales conversation, not just not not just for training purposes. You know how you call them, they always
Yeah.
say, we're recording this for training purposes. But actually, we're getting several advantages out of it. We're turning it into actual personalization data going into our CRM
Love
from the
it.
conversation. So no longer is it the person who's having the conversation with the prospect sitting there keying, forgetting to key some things. We're able to focus on the conversation, and yet we're recording it into our CM data. But guess what? The other aspect is we can coach back to the salesperson because we listen to
Mm-hmm.
that conversation. We can offer suggestions back through the AI to the salesperson. And guess what? We don't know how quickly this is going to go, but we're experimenting with digital conversations for those sales calls. When is it appropriate for a prospect or a resident to say, I'd be just as happy to talk to the digital person as I would to a salesperson? It should be their choice. And we always want to be transparent about that. But you and
Right.
I know there are certain situations where we might even be more willing to talk to a digital agent if it allowed us to get something done more quickly, or
Mm-hmm.
if it gave us a little bit more of a feeling of privacy. It's a
Right.
little bit of a conflict of terms, but yeah, sometimes we're willing to do, not always, but sometimes we are. There's 100 other examples I could give you of conversation to data, conversation to action, conversation to engagement kinds of use cases that come. Because what? Let's understand that generative AI is doing one core thing: it's understanding human intent, finding a way to respond to that human intent.
I want the resident engagement platforms, if you're all listening, all the vendors out there, I want them to be developing agents for residents to just say, make any request or ask any question within a community. And
Yeah,
then
we're really
happen.
close.
Yeah.
We're really close. We're all used to Alexa and Siri. You,
Mhm.
you issue a command, it gives you a response. That's not very responsive. It's great, but it's very limiting and so forth. But now we're starting to see full large language model enablement of Siri. It's starting to happen, right? The current version of the Apple iPhone supports it. Alexa is actually slow to the table with that, but we're expecting it any day now to enable it. Elon Musk just said that Tesla is going to enable Grok, their AI foundation model. So while you're driving, you're talking with it. Doesn't matter how and where it's coming. The fact is, if conversation to action is starting to come to our devices, to our apartments through Alexas, to our phones that we can use anytime, we're not using technology anymore. The technology disappears and it removes significant barriers in terms of us being able to leverage the technology that we do have, which we make invisible now, simply based on the user interface of conversation.
It's incredible. It's so exciting. I want to be able to just ask Alexa to mow my lawn. And I know that'll be the next iteration, right? The robotics.
It is. And there's been some really important announcements over the last few weeks in this robotic space. First of all, we have large language models, but also we have large vision models. So a lot ChatGPT and so forth is now able to interact with you while it's watching what you're watching on a computer screen or through your camera. I was troubleshooting a heating problem in my house this last weekend with ChatGPT explaining to me what all the instruments on my heater meant and what they were and understanding it, but then the next step beyond vision model is world model. How do we make sure that our AI understand how the world functions, what the physics of space is? And that is so important for enabling robotics. So robotics is what? Nowadays we're hearing people describe robotics as embodied AI. And actually it's generative AI that is laying the foundation for robots to move from this very constrained kind of technology. It was improving, but it was expensive, it was inaccessible. And we're starting to all of a sudden see robotics, especially humanoid, drone, and automobile robots, just leap forward in capability. It's not conversation anymore, but it is the use of human senses, the use of vision, the use of perception, the use of language, and others that are allowing these robots to become much more powerful. It's an exciting time.
It really is. Oh, I'm so excited to be speaking with you about this. You're such a visionary, like I said. What advice do you have for senior living providers as they start to pursue the AI world?
It's simple advice. You need to start playing with it. And as
Mm.
you play with it, don't think it's a toy. Think of it as the most powerful tool you've ever touched to allow you to think about how to improve your ability to care for your residents. And just start experimenting and exploring with how meaningful conversations with AI allow you to become better at what you do.
Awesome. Perfect. Thank you so much, Peter. I learned so much from you whenever we speak, and I just really appreciate you taking the time. And I hope to have you on again another time for another episode.
Well, it'll be fun. Things change so fast that there's
They do.
always something new to talk about. Thank you. I appreciate the opportunity.
Thanks, Peter. Take care.